Dimitri,
Oops, sorry. Hello, Rob.
how are you? Hey, I'm sorry I'm late. I was talking to another gentleman, and like I'm friends with you, I'm friends with him, and I kind of went over, so I apologize. So,
No need. Just give me his name, his address, and I will take care of the rest.
actually, his name is Joey, and he lives kind of in West Virginia, where I'm not sure if you ever heard over there in that part of West Virginia, there's a thing, a Mothman, and it's kind of like it's kind of like Bigfoot or something, but it's a guy that flies around with wings and has got red eyes that terrorizes people and did it for 20, 30 years. And so he lives right near where the Mothman guy lives. So he's asking me about all this. Yeah, he's asked me about Cirith Ungol, and I'm talking about Mothman.
No, that's interesting because, we are into this dark stuff. I know that you like Lovecraft. I know that you like everything that is dark. Oh, man. Oh, man. And of course, I noticed the Chaos Star because, it's Metal KAOZ.
Yes, no. Now, you're in Greece, right?
No, I'm in Chicago.
You're in Chicago?
Yep.
Well, your name, you should be in Greece. Have we talked before, haven't we? Or
no, we haven't. We haven't.
Okay.
I have been in the States for the last 13 years. So
are you Greek though, or?
Of course. My
Okay.
last name, the long last name, that kind of gives that away, right?
I know, that's what I'm thinking. Well, yeah, no, I talked to a gentleman in Chicago earlier. I love Chicago. We played there, and I hope that someday we can play there again because we had a really good time.
Oh man, I am sure we will have another good time because you have a killer album out there, right? Not soon, not yet. Sorry, not yet.
Well, it comes out October 20th.
Right. However, after releasing Forever Black, that was releasing Forever Black it was almost like 3 decades, right? And then we had the pandemic hit. So I'm wondering, where did you find the motivation to start writing again? It was very grim.
Well, the truth is, as soon as we got back together, we started writing, and we put out this song. It's kind of behind me a little bit. Let me point the right thing. Witch's Game. We did a single for a movie, and the pandemic, has pretty much caused a lot of havoc around the world. The two guys that are doing that movie are still working on it, but they kind of have some setbacks in their lives and with the project, but it's still going on. So we wrote a song for the movie, and the movie's called The Planet of Doom. You can find it on Instagram, and it was going to be an animated movie, kind of like the movie Heavy Metal back in the 70s or 80s. And these guys, they love it. It's a lifelong project of theirs that they want to complete. And we thought that because of the pandemic, it might have died. But I talked to them recently, and they're still working on it as we speak. So we wrote this song specifically for the movie, and people said, "Wow, you guys can still write music." And then we released Forever Black. And the horrible thing about that is I think the day it was released was the day the pandemic hit, at least here in the United States. And it was just, millions of people died. So it's hard to say, oh, poor me, I'm in a band. I couldn't play our shows. But if you look at the music industry or bands, and us in particular, a lot of the big shows that we had booked got canceled. And we're older, so taking 3 years out of an old person's life is a lot. Like, you're young. If you're young, you have 3 bad years, you could say, oh, I remember back those 3 years, those were horrible. But if you're 65 or 70, the 3 years might be your last year as you're living. So that kind of was a bummer for us. And a lot of those shows didn't really get booked right back right away, and then a lot of them were kind of pre-booked for years in advance. When they got canceled, they don't want to be mean to the bands that they're already at book, so they're playing catch up. We're all playing catch up. So
right.
But hey, a little bit of good comes out of everything. People were stuck at home; they got to listen to more music, and a lot of people liked Forever Black, and so we were like, hey, let's work on another one. And so that's where Dark Parade came from.
However, it's darker, right?
Well, I think so. Now, see, everyone wants to do an interview with me or with the band, and I'm more interested in reading the reviews of the album, not so much critical, because some people say, oh, I hate it or I love it. I just want to see what other people think, because I think it's the heaviest album ever made. I think it's, the best album the band made. I think the drumming on there is better than anyone else on earth. That's in my own perspective, but it's what you and everyone else that listens to the album thinks it really matters, after it's out. Now, we didn't write that for anyone. We wrote it for ourselves.
Yes.
But when you do something, let's say you paint a painting or you make a sculpture, you write a book, you're interested in what other people think about it. So I'm interested even how you feel. You just said you felt it was darker. That's what I want to hear.
Oh yeah, and in fact, well, I like the antithesis though. Of course, we have Elric in the front cover.
Yes.
Although I have a question, and I will ask it right now. This is the final, the last drawing from Mark Whelan, right?
Yeah, well, almost all these pictures behind me were from a series of books in the 1980s. The company was called DAW, D-A-W. I don't know what that, it's probably an acronym for something. Like Fiat in Italy stands for like a company that's, none of us know what it really means. But they put out the first series of the Michael Moorcock Elric series in the United States. And almost all the covers up here were on that, except for Servants of Chaos. This is kind of some of our old material, Metal Blade released in 2000. But and one more thing up here, Forever Black, that was just a painting that he did, like a smaller kind of work of art he did that wasn't part of that original series. But all the other paintings were off a series of books. And I have one, matter of fact, let me see if I can get it.
That's the second one, right?
Oh, no, this is our first album.
No, I'm talking about this.
Oh, in the books. Yeah. Well, it actually, in his book is one, I think, at the end of the book, Elric blows a horn and he ushers into the end of the world and stuff. So I forget exactly what order it is in the group, but this is the first one I read. And the funny story is we were looking at other pictures for the cover by Frank Frazetta.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And Greg, one of the original members of the band, brought in a Molly Hatchet album with the one that we wanted to use. And we're like,
the Death Dealer.
We go, that ship has sailed. And Greg had loaned me this book and I'm reading it and I go, this would make the best album cover in the history of the world. And so I contacted the publisher and they put me in touch with Michael Whelan. And, hey, being associated with this caliber of an artist, we think that he's like the Michelangelo or the Leonardo da Vinci of our time. I mean, that's what I personally feel. And I've seen his work up close. And boy, this cover does not do dust and you see his actual painting, it glows. It literally glows like it's on fire or there's light coming from behind it. And I don't know where that comes from, but that's not any kind of talent that I have.
So interestingly, I have read all the Elric books, aside from the last one, in Greek. So now I have bought everything again in English because I feel that I will get closer to the real thing, right? Because sometimes with the translations, you may lose part of it. However, back to the album, because first of all, that drawing is Elric at the end of time.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, I hope there is no connection between Elric at the end of time with Cirith Ungol at the end of time.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, there's no secret. We consider ourselves elder statesmen.
Okay.
That means old fuckers, right? Right. So, but, I even said in some written interviews, when I see that the painting's called Elric in the Sinking City, something like that. I think that's what it's called. But he's looking out, and you look at the look on his face, and that's what I love about Michael Whelan. He's such a good artist. It's kind of like the Mona Lisa. Is he frowning? Is he smiling? He's contemplative. He's bored. I'm looking at it, and I see him kind of looking out across. Looks like he's kind of on a dock or something, and he's looking out across some water, and he's like either searching for something or he's thinking about his past victories or failures, and I kind of see the band is in that same. We're at the same part that Elric was at in that picture. I think. I mean, he's focused on what's ready to come. And he's trying to get prepared for that, but who knows? At our age, every album could be our last album and every show could be our last show. I saw Bruce Springsteen last night canceled all his entire shows. And and I'm not making any predictions. I'm just saying, for all the old bands like us, whether it's us or any of the other guys that are still around that haven't retired and come back 3 times, but you know, enjoy this stuff while it's around, because just like the climate, you know, it may be gone soon. Who knows? You know.
Yeah, unfortunately, the pandemic kind of reset our minds, although I'm not sure if it did that for all people. But anyways, that's a different discussion. However, I need to ask you, in velocity, there is the SEP in the parentheses. What does it stand for?
Now, yeah, now this is exciting and confusing all at the same time. Tim wrote those lyrics and he put that in there, and he won't tell us what it means.
Oh man.
And so I don't know. I can, if I, even if I knew and I wasn't telling you, I don't know. But
okay, fair enough.
But what he did explain, you know, there's a Black Sabbath song, NIB, at the end of it. You know, I mean, it's I think he told me what that meant, but I don't know. I still don't know what that means. So, but I'm assuming it's probably some doomy, gloomy thing that has to do, you know. And if you, I've written some songs in the past, but he did most of or all the lyrics on this album. I'm sure I probably looked over his stuff and changed a word or two there, but most of the stuff is just kind of very dark, you know.
Oh yeah. And I think the first one, reading the lyrics, it felt to me like you are going through the circles of hell, kind of Dante's Inferno, but not exactly. So it was like taking you by the hand and letting you roam around the darkness and the despair and everything in between.
Hey, and I'll tell you a funny story. Like, let's say in 1981, when the album Frost and Fire came out, I'm reading this. I remember seeing in Tim's hand, he had Donnie's Inferno. So, you know, I think you're onto something with that.
Yeah. And then why I mentioned the cover artwork, because on the cover you see something that is fantasy literature, let's say. But once you start hearing listening to the music and reading the lyrics, it's a different thing. And I like that in the press release, Lovecraft is mentioned.
Yeah.
Particularly the horror at the Red Hook. And honestly, yesterday, before going to sleep, I read again that story and trying to see the connection between the story and the album. So help me out a little bit.
Yeah, I will. Now listen, if you took every member of the band and set them aside and ask them who wrote the song, every member would say, I did. And if you ask each member what their idea was for the song, you'd have like 5 different, you know, every person that worked on it has a different idea where it came from, what it was about. So I'll tell you where that came out for me. While we're working on that song, you know, Tim's all, this is the Dark Parade, you know, and the Dark Parade. And we go, okay, Dark Parade. And I go, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of this part in an H.P. Lovecraft story, or at Red Hook, where they're walking down this dock, and it's kind of moldy, and they're underground. And there's this thing squatting on a golden throne. And some guy, I love organ, is playing the organ in the background. And if you read his description, it's this heavy droning, you know, thing. And this marching along is like this odd group of, like, you know, you can't even call them misshapen humans, because whatever, I forget what the exact wording is. And if you read it, you probably can remember it better than me. But it's this whole parade of all these monstrosities marching up to this thing squatting on this golden throne. So anyway, I'm going to the band, hey, that's what this song's about. And they go, what are you talking about? You know, I go, well, no, this is, every time we play this, you know, every time I think of the name, that's what I see. So I don't want you or your listeners or anyone to get in their head that that's what everyone else in the band thinks. But that's I know, but I'm saying that's every time I think of that song. And I do understand the Dark Parade in Tim's lyrics. You know, he's talking about, you know, the dark parade that mankind's on, you know, toward our ultimate, you know, end of society and you know, evolutionary breakdown, or whatever, you know, whatever you want to. And like I said, you can talk about that day and night, but I'll give you a perfect thing. I have friends in Athens, just fire burnt there, horribly burnt all around Athens. And then it flooded, and a lot of people that my friends were there had people flooded. I live in a house here in California 3 years ago. 1,000 houses burnt down within a mile of where I'm sitting. So I
Oh,
mean, I went out at night and the sky's lit on fire, like the background of like my Zoom background here, you know. So I mean, what our music kind of reflects, it's not any specific political or geographical or ideological thing, you know. We're kind of reflecting the world around us, you know, for better or worse, you know. And I kind of think that uh, when people say, "Oh, you're doom rock or our music's doomy," I think it's kind of like, you know, the lyrics, you know, like what we're trying to say as a group through the lyrics, you know. Now the music's separate, you know.
although it's not the world around us, doomy or black, it's the humans on this world.
Yeah.
So it's us creating this darkness, this blackness, and everything in between.
Yeah,
Anyways,
we're the bad guys here. Hey, there's a comedian, George Carlin. He said once, he goes, "Save the earth." He goes, "The earth is going to be fine. It's all of us that are going to be gone." And that's, you know, that's probably where. But hey, I play in a band and we play doomy music, right? So, you know, I mean, if everything was wonderful and flowers were sprouting out of like behind me, you know, we'd be.
well, you need to have either way. You need to have the antithesis, the contrast. You need to have the blackness to appreciate the light,
Yes.
right? Although we are
Yin
both
and yang.
we are both on the chaos side, I think, right?
Yes. No, I agree. I agree.
And you were looking for the word phosphorescent, right? That figure, that's a word that Lovecraft is using to describe that creature. And
Yes.
I had a question for you to ask you, what do you think that creature was? But no matter.
You
No
know
matter.
what? I don't know, but I've written that story. I love that. Matter of fact, I have all the H.P. Lovecraft on audio tapes.
Oh,
There's this
okay.
guy Wayne June, and if you haven't heard him, get in contact with me through Facebook or something. I'll send you a link or something.
Okay.
Amazing. His voice is just like, matter of fact, it's so dreadful when he's reading them out, you know. And I have a bunch of audiobooks because we're always on the airplane, you know, and 12 hours here, 12 hours there. I don't like reading on the plane. It kind of gets me, you know, motion sickness. So I listen to the audiobooks. And this guy, anyway, his rendition of all the H.P. Lovecraft stuff is you're never going to find anyone ever in the history of the world that can read this stuff better. And when he's reading that, I'm kind of like, you know, and I don't know what to say, but I will tell you this: we played at H.P. Lovecraft convention. We went to Providence, Rhode Island.
I know.
We walked, you know, we did a walk around town, and I stood in front of the shunned house. I stood in front of the house where Dexter Ward and his family lived, you know. And that to me was, you know, it'd be like Oliver, the guy that puts on all our shows in Germany, or Keep It True. He loves Conan, and he went to where, you know, they filmed all the Conan movies in Spain. And I think he probably felt the same way I did standing in front of Dexter Ward's house. So.
Oh, this is something that we have to visit. And by the way, we were at
You're close. You're close.
Yes, we were at Keep It True, so we saw you. We saw you there, and I'm counting my wife too. Is in this one. What's happening in Looking Glass? I read in the press release that says that you, just before the guitar solo, you worked extra hard to get that drum section, drum feel. Why specifically for that? What was troubling you?
I don't, when, you know, when I wasn't struggling so much, what I was trying to do is, you know, to me, I don't consider myself a technical drummer, you know. To me, it's all about the feel. And I consider, matter of fact, when I'm playing, it's like performance art, you know. There's a lot of other drummers. Matter of fact, every other drummer is better than me. Very few people, every once in a while, it's rare, but when people come up and they say it, it just really, it makes my heart warm. They go, "Hey, I love your drumming, you know, you don't do any more than you need to, and I love your fills and this and that." And like I said, I don't expect a lot of people to love me. I mean, there's a lot of good guitar work and Tim's voice and all that stuff, but I take it very seriously what I do. And some of those things, it's just like a small little fill, but to me, it's like I want it to be kind of like a little perfection thing there. And I love that song. It's like, it's kind of like Relentless. You know, it's funny about Relentless. Every night on TV, on a show or the news, they go, "Relentless fire, relentless flooding in Athens." You know, the political thing in the U.S. is relentless. Everything's relentless. And, you know, we have a song on the album, Relentless, you know, but on Looking Glass, when I'm playing that beat, that's what it feels like to me. I feel this like kind of like a powerful kind of chugging riff on there. And I love every song on the album, but I think that might be the sleeper song on the album because it's got all sorts of really good parts to it.
And that particular feel that you're talking about, you can hear going from the right channel to the next. So it's going like this, swirling around, creates a near feeling, as Lovecraft will say.
You're listening through headphones.
Always.
Yeah.
I try at least the first listenings to do those with headphones, because even if you have and I do have a good sound system to put my vinyls on, you get more intimate when you have a good set of phones. You can hear all the details, or most of them. And when you put that on the actual vinyl player, record player, is even better, right? So Looking Glass starts a 4-song concept story, I guess.
Well, you know what? Okay, once again, that side two, the dark side, last 3 albums, Paradise Lost, Forever Black, Dark Parade side 2 is very dark on all 3 of those. Tim sees those as all strung together like a story. Looking Glass, you're looking at yourself, you're looking deep into your soul. Dark Parade, his vision, it doesn't have to do anything with the luminescent glowing guy, but it's a dark parade of mankind, distant shadows. Once again, people ask him, what do you mean by this? And he goes, read the lyrics. So if you have any questions about what he was thinking about, just read the lyrics, and that's what but hey, Dimitri, once again, we're not going to get cut off, and I can run over a little bit, but I feel bad because I cut into you late. If you want to do some more time after I think I only have one more. If you want to send me any personal, contact Jarvis, tell him you have a few follow-up questions. I don't mind typing up some answers for you.
So I have a couple. I can cut this short. I know that you have.
I just want you to know I consider you a friend.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So yeah, you mentioned Jarvis. So Jarvis did the production with Armand?
Yeah, well, Jarvis is more like the executive producer. He's like the guy calling all the shots. Armand did all the actual production.
Okay.
When I talk about production, like the mix down and all that kind of stuff. And we're sitting there. That's another thing that probably the joke is, it's like the album would have come out like 5 years from now if we would have had more time and more money, because we'd be sitting there like all the guys in the band would be going, the cowbell's too loud, and I'd be going, no, turn the cowbell up, right? I want more cowbell. And then there's a couple of parts like on Sailor on the Seas of Fate. It kind of reminds me of a movie, Ben-Hur, where a slave ship is tied and the guy's pounding the thing. So I went and put some drums overdubbed. I hardly ever do overdub drums ever, right? But I did some bong bong, and we're mixing it down. I go, turn that up, you got to hear that. And all the guys in the band go, no, turn that down. And Armand's going, Jesus Christ, let me out of here. That's a joke. Every time he finishes one of our albums, he's going to retire from the music industry, until he gets a couple of days to recover. So
last question. You have on October 20th, you have a release show that you plan to film, I think, right?
Yes.
Are you gonna release that as a
that's Metal Blade will do more. They'll probably announce that. All I know is we're playing, and they're going to film it and record it, and we're going to play the new album. So I mean, we're excited about it because we don't really play around this area much, not because it seems like our fan base in Europe is closer together. In the United States, everyone's spread out.
Yes, of course.
And I mean, that's why it's so good playing at festivals, because you'll have 10 different bands and people will all get together to see. And maybe let's say they like our band, they don't really like one of the other bands, or they don't like the other band, they like us, what have you. They all kind of come together. And that's what I love about the shows in Europe. There's so many different kinds of bands. I get to see bands that I've never in my life would ever been able to. So playing at a club, we just played in New York. We had a good crowd there. But, playing some of these clubs, it's hard to get people off their couches. You know what I mean? I'm, after the pandemic too, I'm sitting on my couch, I got to go out to see a rock band.
The rest of when should we expect to see Cirith Ungol touring the US? And that's my last question.
Well, this is another story. The reason we never toured earlier in our career is because we never really had the support or money. And after we got back together in 2016, the reason we never did any real touring, like considered what a band would do touring, is because a lot of the guys in the band or some of the band members actually have families, careers, mortgages, stuff like that, right? And you can't call your boss and say, hey, I'm in a rock band, I'm leaving for 2 months. Is that okay? And they're like, well, it was nice you working here. So, I mean, I guess that's the story. But here's the good news. We're playing as many shows as we can. We're playing as many bigger shows as we can. That way, people not just to come see us, they get to see a bunch of other bands. And, I think what we're trying to do is get out and play as many shows as we can all over the place. And anyone wants us to play, whenever people ask us to play, we usually play there. So, this is something that we got to work together with the promoters on. But, we love playing. We love getting out and playing for people. But we wish that we could tour 60 days in a row. But because of our age, because of our works and our families and stuff, we're not able to. And I
Come
hope,
on, man. We are old as we feel like it.
Yeah, but you do understand sort of in a way, though,
yes.
right?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Rob. Send my regards to the rest of the band and especially to Jarvis. He knows us. And I don't know, see you in Chicago, maybe?
Yes, we got to eat the pizza.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you
and
very
listen,
much.
If you have any more questions, send them off to him and I'll take care of them.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Dimitri, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.